Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to sew an underbust corset dress. So if you haven't seen the drafting tutorial, please go down to my YouTube channel. So here is my pattern and I'm going to use this to cut out my fabric. So here is my pattern and I've gone ahead to add 1/2 inch all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead to trim off this part that I added. So I'm not going to add that because I've already added that when I was actually cutting out the pattern. That's why we did our shoulder divided by 2 plus 1/2, and I'm going to go ahead to unpin my pattern and open it up to show you what I have. So this is my material and I used a doll face for this. You can also use any fabric of your choice. So I'll be using this to cut out my wording for my pattern, or my bra foam actually. So at this point I measured my nipple to nipple divided by 2 and I added 1 or 1/2 inch. It just totally depends on you, and I'll go ahead to connect it all the way up. So I'm going to make sure that at one point it's going to match what I have at the other side, and I'm going to connect. So I'll go ahead to cut this out, and I'm going to use this to cut out my bra foam, or you can also use a wording for this. So I'm just going to place it and I will cut out. So watch how I'm going to do this. So I'll be adding 1/2 inch at the upper part and by the side. So after cutting that, I'm just going to go ahead to open it up. This is what I have, and I will be placing it on this pattern this way. So I'll be using a hemming gum to hold it down. If you notice, I had few allowances on top. This is to make sure I'm going to turn out the neck very well. So on this other side, I'm also going to go ahead to place and I will cut out. So make sure that you add 1/2 inch on this part. Why I'm not adding at the lower part is that I don't want it to be a little bulky when I'm sewing. So I'll go ahead and place this, and I'll use my hemming gum to go ahead to iron this out. So here is my pattern and I've gone ahead to iron it down. So I used a hemming gum. So after I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead to join this with 1/2 inch, and whatever I'm doing on this, I'm also doing on my lining. So I'll go ahead to trim out the excess foam I have. This is to make sure that my pattern is my dress is not bulky. So when you're doing this, please separate the fabric from the bra foam or wording that you're using, and you're going to go ahead to just trim out only the bra foam or the wording you're using. Leave your fabric. So after I'm done joining, this is what I have, and you're going to go ahead to use your tailor's ham to iron it out, which I did. So now this is the lining part, and I'm going to go ahead to use it to turn this. I'll stitch on the neckline with 1/2 inch and stitch on the side with 1/2 inch also. So after you're done stitching, go ahead to notch it all the way around so that it will be flat, and especially the parts, this deep part of your V, make sure that you notch it very well. And I'm going to go ahead to turn it to the right side. So after I'm done turning, I'm going to go ahead to use my tailor's ham to iron this out so that it sits very well. So if you don't have a tailor's ham, go ahead to make one. I have a video on how to make this, and I don't have a source of ironing. I had to heat up my iron to bring it out here to iron. So after I'm done ironing, we are going to go ahead to work on the underbust part of this dress. So here is my pattern, and I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. If you notice, I merged it together. You're going to have one piece. So I'll go ahead to cut it out, add 1/2 inch at the lower part and at the upper part of this pattern. So next, you want to go ahead and create your boning channels on it. So I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line. So after drawing out, you can go ahead and measure like 2.5 inches interval, or 1.5 inches or 2 inches. It just totally depends on the person's body and the amount of boning channel that you want to create on your pattern. So after I'm done marking out this, the next step is to go ahead to cut out your fabric. So here is about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to place stitch on 1/2 inch. So I'm done stitching and I'm going to flip it this way, and I'll turn it in. Depends on the size of boning you're using. So the size of your boning will determine the size of your boning channel. So I'll go ahead and place, and I'll stitch with I'll top stitch on it by the side. So I'm done stitching, and this is what I have. Turn it to the wrong side to cut out exactly the shape you have. Don't just cut a straight line, if not you might reshape your dress. So after doing this, I'm going to go ahead to create another boning channel just like I did for this, and I will place stitch, flip it, and top stitch. So I will do this for the rest of the pattern. So after I'm done sewing my boning channel, I'm going to be joining it with the upper part of the dress this way. So what you're going to do is to go ahead to place, and you're going to make sure that the center meets. Go ahead to stitch from that point all the way to the side. So after stitching that, you're going to go ahead to also repeat this at the other side. Go ahead to stitch with 1/2 inch. And after I'm done stitching, this is what I have. So while you were cutting out your pattern, just the same way you cut out the underbust, you're also going to cut out for the lining, and you're going to attach gum stay on it. So now I'm going to go ahead to use the lining to turn it up. So I'm just going to place this at the center just like I did for the front, and I'll start stitching from that point down to the other end. So be careful when you're stitching this, it might be a little tricky. So after stitching, you're going to go ahead to stitch the side of your dress with 1/2 inch. So after I'm done stitching, this is what I have. So next we're going to go ahead to work on the skirt pattern of this dress. So for the skirt pattern, this is what I have, and if you noticed, I added my zipper allowance just like I said when we were cutting out the pattern. So now I'm going to cut out the lining, and to cut out the lining, I will mark at this point the lower part, and I'll go ahead to take out the turn up effect. You're going to have a turn up effect at the skirt, so I'll go ahead to mark about 2 inches away from the lining, so that by the time I'm done sewing, I'm going to have a turn up effect. And remember, we added 1.5 inches for folding allowance on this dress, so that's why we're cutting this out. So I'll just go ahead to trace the side of the skirt also. So next, you're going to go ahead to open this up, and you're going to place your lining on it. So you're going to go ahead to stitch with 1/2 inch at the lower part. After stitching this way, you're going to flip your skirt up this way. Just flip it up this way as I am doing, and you're going to measure about 1.5 inches starting from where the material is starting. So if you do this, you notice that your lining will match your skirt. That is where we have gone ahead to take out that 1.5 inches we added for turn up allowance. So after this, you're going to pin your skirt, and you're going to stitch it by the sides. And after I'm done doing that, I'll also go ahead to iron this out. So here is my skirt. I've gone ahead to turn it up, and I ironed it, and I also ironed the back. I turned the back also just the same way I turned the front. So if you use a dart for your skirt when you're sewing a corset, go ahead to do that, but for me, I don't add that to my skirt when I'm sewing a corset or a bustier dress. So go ahead to pin up your skirt. So you're going to go ahead to join the back skirt together, and to join that, you're going to go ahead and measure about 8 inches or 10. That will be for your zipper allowance. Go ahead to mark 1 inch down. You're going to be stitching that part for your zipper allowance, and leave allowance at the lower part so that you can go ahead and insert a slit at the lower part of your skirt. So I'll go ahead and stitch this down. So this is the upper part of my dress, and now we're going to attach the skirt to the dress. Go ahead to place it on it, and you're going to trace out the shape. Make sure the center of the blouse is on the center of the skirt, and you're going to go ahead to use your chalk to draw out the shape that you have. After drawing it out, you're going to cut it out. So I'll go ahead and I will cut out this. So after that, I'm going to go ahead to insert the boning to my dress, and you're going to go ahead to place and stitch with 1/2 inch at both sides. You're going to start from the center and stitch to the side, and you're going to repeat this at the other side. Please make sure you insert a boning to your dress. I forgot to actually show how to insert a boning to the dress, but I went ahead to do mine, and I stitched up the skirt. Sorry. So this is what I have after I'm done sewing, And the next step is to work on the back pattern of this dress. So on the back pattern, this is what I have. I've gone ahead to cut out all my pattern and I added 1/2 inch, and I went ahead to also cut out the lining and gum stay to iron it for the back. So now we're going to turn the yoke of the dress at the back. Open it up this way, and you're going to go ahead to place it, to turn it with your lining. So after I'm done placing, I'll go ahead to stitch on this part, and please don't stitch at the side, stitch on the other side also. So now I'm done stitching, and this is what I have. I went ahead to put a little rope at the back because I don't want to add a button and a loop to it. So this is the back pattern. I've gone ahead to iron my gum stay on it. So now we're going to be turning it up with the yoke. So when I was cutting my pattern, actually I matched up the dart because I don't want to start sewing that on it. So I'm going to place this, also place the pattern. This is just to make sure that I notch the part where our yoke will be starting from. So after doing this, I'm going to open up my pattern this way, and after opening it up, I'm going to place my yoke on each part, starting from that point we notched, because that's where my yoke starts at the back pattern. So you're going to take your lining, place it this way, and you're going to pin it down. So after pinning it down, you're going to be stitching on this pattern, on your dress. And now you're going to stitch starting from this part with 1/2 inch on top, and you're also going to stitch at the other side. So you're also going to repeat the same process at the other side. Place your lining on it, and you're also going to stitch on it. So after you're done stitching, this is what I have for the back pattern. So sorry, this video is a bit fast. I'm actually doing this because I don't have enough memory space on my phone. So now we're going to go ahead to attach the lower part of this dress. But before we do that, go ahead to create the part you want to attach boning to. So now I just want to have one boning at the back of my dress, but if you're using a lacing bar for this dress, you'll be having more than one boning channel. You should have up to 3 to 4 boning channel if you're using a lacing bar. So now I'm going to stitch those lines down just like I marked it, and I'm going to be inserting my boning to it. So when you're adding your boning, make sure it doesn't get to the lower part of the dress. So after I'm done stitching this, I'm going to go ahead to stitch this up, but I'm just going to explain to you how to do this, and I'll go over and add my boning and then stitch it on the sewing machine. Go ahead to place it on this point this way, and you're going to stitch with 1/2 inch. On the other side, you're going to repeat the same thing. So after I'm done doing that, I'm just going to go ahead to attach the zipper to the back of my dress. So if you're using a lacing bar, you're just going to create the lacing bar for your dress. So I don't actually have anybody to lace up the dress for me, so that's why I'm using a lacing bar. So next is to turn the back with the front. So to do that, I placed both of them together, right side facing to each other. So you're going to place the shoulder this way, and you're going to turn it with the other one and stitch with 1/2. On the other side, place and use the shoulder of the back, flip it this way, and you're going to stitch with 1/2 inch. So after I'm done turning it up, this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead to trace out the excess I have on the shoulder, but before that I'll measure what I have round. So what I have is about 8.5 inches on the armhole. So I'll be using this to cut out the sleeve of the dress. So to cut out the sleeve, I'm going to use a very simple and basic method to do this. So this is the length of the sleeve. To fold is your armhole circumference divided by 2. Mine is 16 divided by 2. I have 8. So that is 8 inches, and I'll add 1 inch to it. So I'll go ahead and mark 1/2 inch on top. This will serve as my starting line for this particular pattern. So next, I'm going to go ahead to find my sleeve cap height, which is your bust circumference divided by 12 plus 1/2 inch. So mine is 3.25 inches, but I normally use 3.5. So after that, place your tape starting from that point again, and you're going to go ahead to mark your shoulder to elbow point. Mine is 13 inches, and I will go ahead to mark on that point. So after I'm done marking that, the next step is to go ahead to get your sleeve your sleeve height, the total length of your sleeve, which is the total length of this pattern paper. So now I'll just measure that 8.5 inches I have at the armhole. I'm going to add 1 inch to it, so you can go ahead and add half to it. It totally depends, and I'll trace it out. Go ahead to place my tape and I'll measure this out. This is just a very simple way of drafting out your sleeve, so this is not like a standard method. So next, I'm going to go ahead to measure my elbow circumference divided by 2. After that, I'll go ahead and mark and add 1 inch. So you can also add half inch to it. Next is to mark your wrist circumference divided by 4 and add your 1 inch or half to it. So go ahead to connect your pattern. This is what I have for my sleeve. So after I'm done doing this, I'll just go ahead to cut out my sleeve. So I'll use this to cut out my sleeve, add half inch because of the joining allowance. So here's my sleeve. I've gone ahead to cut it out and I'll pick it up and notch the center. That is where you're going to start joining your dress from. So here at the lower part, I went ahead to cut this out. This is about 5 inches and the total length is about 20, and I'll just gather this at the lower part of my sleeve. So I've gone ahead to also attach it with half inch, and the next step is to go ahead to shape my dress. So after I'm done pinning my dress, this is what I have. Now we're going to go ahead to insert our measurements. So I'll go ahead to place this at the under bust, which is 12 inches, and from that point I'm going to mark my bust point, which is 9 inches. I'll place back my tape at the under bust and I'll go down to my waist, which is 17 inches mark, and from there I'll place my tape, measure about 7 inches or 8 inches to get your hip point. So now we're going to insert our measurement. So you can also use the normal bustier method, which I use in shaping this, or you can just use a normal method. So I'll just measure what I have here thereabout, and whatever I get, I'm going to be sharing it into two. Go ahead to fold your tape this way and I will mark on this point, and then from that point I'll go ahead to insert my bust circumference divided by 2, and then I'll go ahead to mark. So my bust circumference is 33 divided by 2. I have 16.5. At the under bust, I'm going to place whatever I have on that point. Make sure it's on a straight line. So after measuring, what I have there is about 16, and my under bust circumference is 28 divided by 2. I have 14. So that's 16 minus 14. I have 2 inches. So I'll go ahead and divide that 2 inches, 1 inch on this side. From there, I'll go ahead to insert the 14 inches. So my under bust and my waist is the same measurement. I'll go ahead to insert my measurement at that point. So after I'm done marking that, I'll go ahead and mark my hip circumference divided by 2. So my hip is 40 inches and what I have here is 22 inches. That's my hip circumference divided by 2. I have 20. So 22 minus 20, I have 2 inches. So I'll mark 1 inch here, place my tape and mark 20 inches, leaving me about 1 inch on the other side. So at the lower part of my dress, I'm going to mark 1.5 inches because I don't want my dress to be too tight at the lower part. And from there, I'll just go ahead to connect to the upper part, and I will repeat this at the other side. So when I was sewing my skirt, I actually had an excess on one side, so there was a little mistake when I was cutting the skirt out with the pattern. So after cutting and sewing, this is the final look of the dress. So please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also join us in our next video. Thanks.